Are you constantly unsatisfied with your paintings? It's okay, you're not alone. Hopefully, by the end of this video, you'll solve the root of your perfectionism and unleash the ability to experiment with your art and become free with your paintings. As someone who struggles with perfectionism myself, I think it boils down to these three categories. 1, fear of failure. 2, hesitancy to get out of your comfort zone. And 3, lack of confidence. We'll be diving into each category, and I'll be sharing some tips and ideas that have worked for me and that maybe you'll find helpful as well. Let's start with the first category, fear of failure. Have you ever felt that whenever you think of starting a new painting or trying a new art medium, you feel paralyzed with dread? Welcome to the club. You don't even want to start because what if it turns out awful? And in the case of drawing and painting, you're spending hours on it. And if you mess up, then it's a total waste, right? Yes and no. If you enjoyed painting your piece but aren't happy enough with the end results, enough to hang it on the wall, is it still really a waste? Why are you afraid of trying that new art supply? Maybe you're just taking yourself and your art a bit too seriously. What if instead of having your success depend on the end result, you instead just focused on the process itself? This mindset has helped me so much in being okay with learning new things. Instead of telling yourself that you won because you created a masterpiece, tell yourself you have achieved simply because you showed up and you picked up that paintbrush in the first place. And this can be applied to more than just art. Last week, I went to my first martial arts class, and obviously I sucked. Apparently, I was making my fists wrong, and for the first time, I learned how to punch correctly. Come on, right? If we're talking super beginner here. However, when I left that class, I still felt proud and accomplished. Of course I'm not good, I'm a beginner, but I learned something that I didn't know before, and just from that one class, I became slightly stronger than I was. Every little step you take is a win. When you celebrate the process, the end result stops mattering so much. And that's not to say that the end result doesn't matter at all. It does. But when you overcome your fear of failure through valuing the process more, you end up putting less pressure on yourself, and your paintings just naturally end up better because you aren't as stressed. Now, fear of failure can also stem from outside pressure to perform well. You like making art, it's your hobby, right? But even though you're painting mostly for yourself because you enjoy it, there's a part of you that is also wanting to impress your friends and family. So you set really high standards for yourself, which makes you afraid of making bad art because everyone is going to see it. The secret solution to this is simply don't show your art. Your sketchbook is for practice and for your eyes only, and you can choose what you show. If you're feeling this pressure, I'd recommend the 3-month rule. Don't show your art to anyone for 3 months. This gives you the space to practice and get on your feet without anyone's judgment. I did the 3-month rule when I first started this YouTube channel, and I feel that it made all the difference. No one is ever good at something from the first try, and the 3-month rule let me try and fail and be bad without worrying about what others I know might think. The second category in perfectionism is hesitancy to get out of your comfort zone. If you find that learning new things and experimenting doesn't come naturally to you, then this is your category. When you try creating art with a new medium, or try anything new really, a way to not get discouraged and give up is to lower yourself a bit and accept that you're currently out of your comfort zone. A quote that I really like is, "Don't be afraid of being afraid." When you try something new, you are bound to feel discomfort. But that's what change is, and if everything is easy, then you aren't growing either. Don't be afraid of being a beginner, and instead accept that you are one and see how you grow. I've been struggling with this lately, which is what prompted me to finally try out painting with gouache. I only tried painting with gouache once before, and had a bad experience, so my gouache paints were collecting dust for this past year. Of course, when I was painting this piece, I felt at first like I was free-falling and had no idea what I was doing. But because I expected this, I actually found it exciting, like an adventure of sorts. It's important to remind yourself that hesitancy to try something new usually stems from fear of the unknown, and the solution to this is simply learn more. Getting out of your comfort zone isn't only learning something new. It's also experimenting with what you already know. It's trying something crazy and wild and being flexible. But if you're like me, then you might sometimes feel constrained when you paint, and you have a desire to be free and just express yourself, but it's like there's this barrier that's holding you back. A tip that I use which helps me break out of this in my painting process is asking myself, am I afraid to mess this up? And if I am, then it's time to deliberately do something drastic to mess it up. And messing it up can go from spontaneously splashing your painting to simply going darker with the shadows than you deem safe at the moment. You know you're on the right track when your attitude towards your painting is like, whatever, might as well just go all the way with this while I'm at it. This mindset is something I learned from making pottery. When you make pottery, so much could go wrong, and it does end up going wrong, that you simply learn to let go and take things as they come. For instance, I was recently trying to make this cool orb candle holder, but while I was carving out my vessel and making holes in it, half of it just fell apart completely. I ended up just going with it, and now it's a very organic candle holder in an interesting shape. Just so you can see, here's the inspiration I got from Pinterest, which is what I was going for, and here's how it ended up. I find that a lot of the time these unexpected twists and challenges throughout the process are the ones that teach you the most and are the pieces that also end up the best because setbacks make you problem solve and think outside of the box. The third category in perfectionism is lack of confidence in yourself and in your skills. Maybe whenever you draw or paint, you're unsatisfied with what you created. Your art may be getting better, but it's still not there yet. You can't help being discouraged because will your art ever get there? There's this other quote I like, and it goes like this: "The master has failed more times than the beginner has even tried." The more you do something, the better you'll get. It's a fact. Also, keep in mind that no one is born with skill. When you see artists' work that you admire, see their skill as an inspiration for how good you could become instead of comparing yourself. I used to have a whole stack of good quality watercolor paper just sitting in my closet that I was saving for a good painting. I would draw and paint these detailed studies in my sketchbook, but I never had the courage to take one of those sheets of paper and paint a real painting. I always came up with excuses, telling myself that I wasn't a good enough of an artist yet to create a work big enough to fit a whole page on its own. And also, I didn't want to mess up and waste an expensive sheet of paper. But then, several months ago, I came across this quote: "You miss all the shots you don't take." This quote was originally applied to photography, but it got me thinking. There's never perfect timing. If today your art skills aren't good enough to tackle that project, then who said it will ever be good enough? Will your first huge painting be your best? No, but it's what gets the ball rolling. Your 100th painting will be better than your first, but if you never paint your first painting, then you'll never get to paint your 100th. If you have anything to add to what I said here or want to share your story, feel free to comment. If you found this video helpful, please drop a like and consider subscribing.